Good afternoon, girls and boys. It's Julie coming to you from the Amherst branch of the Cumberland Public Libraries, and it's time for another one of our take and make activities. Now, you know that these kits are all out in the branches. All you have to do is call your branch. Right now, the branches are closed, so you can't go into the branch. Excuse me, but you can call them and say, hey, I'd like a take and make kit, and they will have them waiting for you through our grab and go service. And you can tell them you're going to come in on Tuesday and pick it up, and they'll have it ready and waiting for you. So you call your local branch to find out what hours they're open for the grab and go service, and you can get your kit. And this is what we're going to make. We're inside your kit's just going to be in a paper bag like this, and it's going to have a little picture on the front that shows you what they're going to look like. You're going to have a flower pot. You're going to have some soil, some sunflower seeds, some paint, and another one of these little pipettes that we used for the tiles when we did our March break activities. Now, to go along with that, you should have a spoon. You should have a container with some water in it, because you're going to want to put the pipette in the water just to rinse it out, to change colors in between. And something else, you're going to want something to cover your table, because the paint's going to drip down and you don't want it to drip on the table. So I just have this little craft mat that I've used. And I've also, because I don't want the pot to stick to the table, I was trying to figure out what I could use to make the pot be raised off the table. And I just went to my recycling bin and I found 3 little pop bottle caps. And I set the pot on top of the caps. And there we go. So now when the paint drips down, if it drips onto the mat, that's okay, but the pot won't stick to the mat because it's elevated by the caps. So you're going to take these little paint pots, and if you notice on the side, there's little things where you're going to put your thumb under the bottom of the top one, and then put your little finger on the top of the other one, and you're going to push, and it's going to separate them. And you've got to be really careful doing this, because if you squeeze, the paint's going to squirt all over the place. Ask me how I know that, because I did it. When I was packing these, I went to squeeze the lid too tight, and I wore the white paint. So when you open it up, there's 3 colors of paint in there. There's blue and white and red. And some of the paint is really thick. So when you start this, if you find that your paint is too thick, it's okay to put your paint into another container or take a few drops of water. Actually, I've got room in this one, so I'm going to add a little bit of water to mine. Just add like 2 or 3 drops of water, and then I've got a toothpick, and I'm just going to stir it up a little bit, because your paint has been sitting in these containers and it's been traveling, so it might have gotten thick, and if it's too thick, it's not going to drip the way that we want it to. So I'm just going to add a little bit more water, and it's a good idea to have a thing of water nearby so you can rinse out your pipette in between each color change, because if you put the pipette into the blue and then into the white and then into the red, your colors are all going to mix and they're not going to stay separated when they drip. So I've mixed my blue up. Now the other thing is, excuse me, when you get your pipette, it's got a really, really thin point on it. So what I did was I took a pair of scissors and I just cut it about that far down, maybe 1/4 of an inch down, so that the hole is a little bit bigger. And we're going to try this first, and if it is still not big enough for the paint to come out of, we're going to trim it again, just so that we've got a bigger one. You don't want to go too far up, because we want the paint to come out in small drips. So we're going to put our pipette in and just give it a little bit of a squeeze. All right, now see, I've got the blue paint in there, and then you're just going to go, oops, a bubble there. Oh, alrighty, so you have to, it doesn't want to drip. There we go. Okay, now because the pipette, oop, got a bubble in there. All right, so you're just going to keep going around the top. And I can't see what, I can't see what's happening here, so I'm just going to come a little bit closer. So go right around the edge, and I think we might have to add a little bit more water to this because it's not dripping quite the way I want it to. So I'm going to add a little bit more water and stir it up. All right, now, there we go. Oops. Now see, I added the water to it, so now it's dripping big time. So you're just going to go around the edge of the pot, and you can do this more than one time if you want. You can just go around with the one color and just keep squeezing. And because I've added water to it, it's thinned the paint out a little bit, so it's not going to look quite as thick. All right, I'm seeing air bubbles too. So we're going to stir that up a little bit. All right, and then once we've done enough with the blue paint, we're going to change to one of the other colors. And if you want, you can actually mix the two colors. If we mix blue and red together, what color are we going to get? We're going to get purple, aren't we? Okay. Now, because our pipette is long, it's holding some of the paint in there. So if you have an eyedropper at home, it might actually work a little bit better than this. Or you could take a Q-tip or something and just put it across the top and it will still drip down. Because the pipette is long, it's kind of holding some of the paint in there that we need to come out. So, there we go. We've got some dripping action happening there. So you just go all the way around the top. And then, if you want to change the colors, you can. I'm going to actually do my red next because I want to see if I can make purple. So let's see here. I'm going to add a little bit of water into there. And then we're going to stir it up again. Okay. If you have paint at home and you want to do different colors than I've chosen, you are welcome to do that. I'm just going with some of the colors that we had here at the library. Now I've mixed that up, and because I've added a little bit of water to it, it's actually made it a little bit of a lighter color. So let's see. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get some pink, and we're going to start the same way. We're just going to go around the top, and it's going to drip down and give us this beautiful tie-dyed look. And it's okay if some areas are more thicker than the others because it just depends on how the paint lands on the paint pot, or on the plant pot, I should say. Okay. Now, if I mix the red and the white together, what color is that going to give me? The red and white's going to give me pink, that's right. Okay, so my red paint, I put a little bit more water in it, so it was a little bit runnier than my blue, so it spread a little bit better. And the neat thing about this is you can just leave this. After you've put the paint on, you can just leave it for an hour or so, and the paint will continue to drip down the sides. You know what I forgot? I forgot to bring wipes again. I always do that when I'm doing these videos. I forget my wipes for my fingers. All right, so now we're going to add some white to this and see how that's going to look. You can do the colors in any way you like. And as I said, if you have your own paint at home, you can do that. I'm just going to mix a little bit of red into my white and see what that comes up with. Okay, so Now, I'm going to turn this pot around a little bit so you can see what's happening. You can see what's happening there in the front. Alrighty. We've got, oops. And again, if you've got it sitting on something, it's easier to move it. My fingers are getting a little colored. So now we're going to take our white. Now, when you squeeze the pipette, you end up with some air. All right. You get some air bubbles in there so it doesn't fill up right away. And it's going to be beautiful because all of the colors are going to start mingling together. And the colors that you start with and the colors that you finish with are usually two different things. What we want is white on the front. And again, if you still have some of the red, you can add some red back to it. Oh, I hear the wind blowing in the breeze out there, or the flag is blowing in the breeze out there today. Okay. So, now, once you have all of the colors on here, you're going to just leave it. It's probably going to take a few hours to dry. So if you do this in the afternoon, I would just set it aside somewhere where you're not going to need it for a few hours, because the next part is planting. And if you try and plant in a flower pot that's got wet paint on it, what's going to happen to your fingers? That's right, you're going to get them all covered in paint, aren't you? And it's not going to work very well. Okay, let's see if I can get that last little bit of paint out of there. Okay, now as you can see, the paint is continuing to drip. That's gravity because the paint is heavy, so it's pulling the paint down. Whoop! And it also pulls them off the bottle cap. So, all right, so I'm going to leave that. Greg, could you pass me one of those napkins, please? Thank goodness the camera guy's always got napkins nearby, because otherwise I would have really dirty fingers all the time because I forgot my wipes. So now we're just going to let that go to the side for at least 2 or 3 hours, I think. The pot's made of terracotta, out of clay, and it will absorb some of the paint. So you're just going to have to leave it for a little bit and let it completely dry. But I'm going to show you what we're going to do just using this pot. I'm not going to paint this one, but I'm going to show you how we do the planting. So in your bag, you've got a bag of soil, and you've got a bag of sunflower seeds. And so you're going to take your soil, and you can use a shovel, you can use a spoon, whatever you've got to do that. And you're just going to add the soil about 3/4 of the way up the pot. You're not going to fill the pot because you need some room to put your seeds in. Okay. This is a great activity to do outside. And the other thing is your flower pots have a hole in the bottom of them. I wasn't able to find the clay saucers that go underneath them to fit this size of pot. So you're going to want to keep these outside, because if you put water into that pot, what's going to happen when it gets to the hole in the bottom? That's right, it's going to drip out all over the place, isn't it? And we don't want to see that happen. So once you've got your soil in your pot, you need a little bit of water. So I just push it down a little bit. See, you can see the soil's coming out on the bottom there. And I'm just going to grab my water bottle for a minute because it has water in it. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my soil. And then I'm going to give it a quick stir. And it's a good idea to have your soil pretty moist for the first time, because the soil has been sitting in the bags. So seeds will not start to germinate, or they won't start to grow unless the soil is good and moist. So once you get your soil good and moist, you're going to take your seeds. Now, these are sunflower seeds, and these are pretty small pots. So I didn't want to do too many seeds in one pot, because a sunflower, as you know, grows really, really tall. So you can start your sunflower in this pot, and then once it gets too big for the pot, you can take it outside and you can plant it in your garden somewhere so that it will grow big and tall. So we're just going to take the seeds and you're just going to put them lightly in the soil. And then once they're in the soil, you're just going to push them down a little bit with your finger. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more water. And I'm just going to make sure that it's well covered. And then I'm going to take some more of the soil that's in the bag. And there should be more than enough soil to fill your pot. So we're going to leave a little bit of space at the top, because if you put too much soil in and then you water it, the water's just going to flow right out of the pot. It'll go over the sides, and that means it won't get down to the seeds, and the seeds need the water in order for them to grow. So we're going to add a little bit more. And the other thing is, once you add some water to it, it actually will make the soil tamp down a little bit. So if I pushed on that, it would go all the way down. But what I'm going to do is add more water to it. Did you see that? The water splashed out over the side, because that was exactly what I said would happen, wasn't it? I put a little bit too much soil on the top here, but the soil is going to start to absorb the water. It's going to suck the water down into the soil, and then the seeds are going to take the water, and that's what's going to make them grow. So when you do this at home, you're not going to have a separate flower pot. I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to plant. Now, can you see the dark spots on that terracotta pot? Greg, can you see the dark spots on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's just showing you a terracotta pot is absorbent. Clay absorbs water. So that's showing you, when I was talking about the paint getting absorbed into the pot, that's exactly what's going to happen. The water that I used to water these seeds is already absorbed into the pot. So the paint is going to do the same thing on here. And the paint that I've given you guys is acrylic paint. So once it dries really well, it shouldn't wash off your pot. Now, if your pot's out there and there's a big thunderstorm and it's raining really hard, then maybe some of the paint will wash away, but a lot of the color is going to absorb into the pot, and you shouldn't have an issue with it. So when you're finished, you're going to just turn your flower pot upside right. You're going to add your soil about halfway up, and then put in your seeds, and then top it off with some more soil, and then add a little bit of water. And sunflowers grow pretty quickly, so you should see some growth from this. I'm just going to add a little bit more water, because I notice it's still a little bit dry. That soil, because it was in the bag, it's a little bit dry. And so it should probably, within 2 to 3 weeks, you should start to see a little green sprout. And sunflowers grow really quickly. So once you start to see a little sprout, you're going to see a big one. So there should be 2 or 3 seeds in each of your bags. So just plant them not too close together. Plant them on different sides of the pot, and then watch them grow. And once they've had a chance to grow, I would love it if you guys would take some pictures and put them in the comments below, so that I can see how well your plants have done. When my pot is all dry, I'm going to take the soil and stuff from this pot and put it in here. And when it grows, I will put a picture of my sunflower up there too, so you guys can see it. Sunflowers are beautiful, happy flowers. They always make me smile when I see them. And some of them will even get bigger than some of you, because sunflowers grow 6 or 7 feet tall. So they even will be bigger than me. So again, have fun with this craft. I hope you guys have a really good time with it. I'd love to see some photos of it. You have a wonderful day, and I will see you again really soon. Bye-bye.